The galaxy had known humans for 200 years. In that time, they had earned a reputation. They were traders. They were artists. They were diplomats who could solve arguments between species that had hated each other for thousands of years. They built beautiful cities on distant worlds. They wrote music that made alien species cry, even species that had no tears. But no one feared them. The Galactic Concord, which governed 10,000 worlds and a million species, had a simple ranking system. Species were divided into categories based on their military strength. The Vorthax Dominion sat near the top. They were insectoid warriors standing 8 feet tall with armored shells and claws that could cut through steel. They had conquered 60 worlds. They had never lost a war. Humans sat near the bottom of the rankings. They had a small defense fleet. They had no conquered territories. They seemed to prefer building hospitals on poor worlds rather than building warships. The Concord's military analysts had a name for species like humans. They called them soft species, easy targets. High Commander Vraxis of the Vorthax Dominion looked at the human colony world on his tactical display. It was called New Helsinki, orbiting a red star in the Proxima Centauri system. 340,000 humans lived there. They had farms. They had schools. They had a small orbital station where trading ships docked. They had almost no defenses. "This will be easy," Vraxis said to his war council. "We take this world. We take their resources. We make them pay tribute. And if they complain to the Concord will do nothing." They never do anything for soft species. His advisors clicked their mandibles in agreement. The plan was simple. The plan was perfect. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. The attack came without warning. 40 Vorthax warships dropped out of hyperspace above New Helsinki on a quiet Tuesday morning. The colony's 3 defense satellites were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. The orbital station, filled with traders and families waiting for transport ships, was next. It broke apart in a ball of fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. Then the Vorthax began their ground assault. The colonists had no army. They had a small police force with light weapons. They had farmers and teachers and doctors. They had children walking to school when the dropships landed. The battle, if it could be called a battle, lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 340,000 humans were dead. The Vorthax raised their flag over the ruins of the colony's capital. Varaxis watched the footage from his command ship and felt satisfaction. The soft species had learned their place. The news reached Earth 12 hours later. In Geneva, in the Great Hall of the United Planetary Council, the representatives of humanity gathered. The hall was silent. On the massive screen at the front of the room, images played. Burning buildings, bodies in the streets, a school with its walls blown open, small shapes lying still among the rubble. President Maria Santos stood at the podium. Her face was pale. Her hands were steady. "The Galactic Concord has issued a statement," she said. Her voice was flat. "They express deep concern. They call for diplomatic solutions. They will take no action." A murmur went through the hall. Everyone had expected this. The Concord never protected soft species. It was not worth their time. "The Vorthax Dominion has sent us their demands," Santos continued. "They want tribute. They want access to our trade routes. They want us to acknowledge their superiority." She paused. "They expect us to surrender." In the front row, Admiral Yuki Tanaka sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was 63 years old. Her hair was gray. Her eyes were calm. She had not commanded a warship in 30 years. There had been no need. Humanity was peaceful. But Tanaka remembered. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her. Stories of a time before humanity reached the stars. Stories of a species that had nearly destroyed itself. The resource wars of 2089. The nuclear fires. The billions dead. She remembered what humanity had decided after those wars. They would lock away their weapons. They would bury their war doctrine. They would become something better. They had become traders, artists, diplomats, but they had not forgotten what they were. President Santos turned to Admiral Tanaka. "Admiral, what is your recommendation?" Tanaka stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to her. She walked to the podium and looked out at the representatives of Earth, of Luna, of Mars, of every human colony in the galaxy. 340,000 of our people are dead, she said. Children are dead. The Vorthax believe we are weak. The galaxy believes we are weak. She paused. They are about to learn otherwise. She pressed a button on the podium. A communication channel opened. It connected directly to the Vorthax homeworld, to the personal chambers of High Commander Varaxis himself. This message is for the Vorthax Dominion, Tanaka said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. You have attacked our people without warning. You have killed our children. You believe this makes you strong. You believe we will bow. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You have made a terrible mistake. She transmitted a data file. It contained the coordinates of New Helsinki. It contained the exact number of dead. It contained 7 words in the Vorthax language. Those 7 words were simple. You have made a terrible mistake. Then she closed the channel. Across Earth, something began to happen. In the Swiss Alps, massive blast doors that had been sealed for 200 years began to grind open. In the deserts of Nevada, in the frozen wastes of Siberia, in bunkers beneath the ocean floor, ancient systems hummed to life. Humanity had buried their swords after the resource wars. They had prayed they would never need them again, but they had not destroyed them. High Commander Varaxis received the human transmission in his war room. He played it for his advisors. They laughed, a soft species making threats. It was pathetic. It was amusing. Ignore them, Varaxis commanded. They will learn to obey. All soft species do. He ordered his fleet to prepare for the next attack. Earth had a moon called Luna. It had shipyards there, civilian shipyards, easy targets. He would teach the humans that their threats meant nothing. He could not know that across the galaxy, old soldiers were receiving a message on devices they had not looked at in decades. A simple code. A simple activation phrase. He could not know that these old men and women, who had spent their lives as farmers and teachers and artists, were putting down their tools. They were reporting to bases that did not officially exist. They were remembering skills they had hoped to never use again. He could not know that humanity had just woken up, and humanity was angry. The Luna shipyards floated in the darkness above Earth's moon. They were civilian stations. They built transport ships and cargo haulers. They repaired trading vessels. 12,000 people worked there. Engineers, mechanics, families who had made their homes among the stars. They had no weapons. High Commander Varaxis brought 50 warships. He wanted to send a message. The humans had made threats. They had spoken of mistakes. Now they would learn the cost of defiance. The attack took 4 minutes. The shipyards broke apart like toys. Bodies floated in the vacuum. Varaxis watched the destruction from his command ship and felt pleasure. This was how you taught soft species. You hurt them until they understood. On Earth, the news arrived in the middle of the night. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was in the war room beneath Geneva when she received the report. 12,000 dead. The second attack in 2 weeks. The Vorthax were not backing down. They were pushing harder. She looked at the old generals and admirals gathered around her. Many of them had gray hair. Many of them walked with canes. They had spent decades as peaceful citizens. But their eyes were hard now. Their faces were stone. They have triggered the Prometheus Protocol, Tanaka said quietly. There is no going back. The Prometheus Protocol. It was a name that existed in no official records. It was a plan created 200 years ago, after the resource wars nearly ended humanity. The plan was simple. If humanity ever faced extinction, if an enemy ever threatened their complete destruction, everything would be unlocked. Everything. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, the blast doors had finished opening. Inside the mountain, row after row of weapons sat in perfect storage. Antimatter warheads that could crack a planet's crust. Self-replicating attack drones that could turn an enemy fleet into dust. Bioweapons that had been banned by human ethics councils because they were too horrible to ever use. And there was more. Hidden shipyards behind Jupiter, secret factories inside asteroids, an entire fleet built in darkness, maintained by automated systems, waiting for a day that humanity had prayed would never come. 10,000 warships, armed with weapons that the galaxy had never seen, ready for war. Ambassador Chen stood before the Galactic Concord on the planet Nexus Prime. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 1,000 species. They looked at the small human with curiosity, some with pity. The soft species had come to beg for help, they assumed. The soft species had come to cry. Chen's face showed no emotion. 2 weeks ago, the Vorthax Dominion attacked our colony of New Helsinki without warning, he said. His voice was calm. 340,000 of our people died. The Concord expressed concern. The Concord called for diplomacy. The Concord did nothing. Murmurs rippled through the hall. This was true, everyone knew it. Yesterday, the Vorthax attacked our Luna shipyards. 12,000 more of our people died. Civilians, workers, children. Chen paused. We come before you today not to ask for help. We come to give you a warning. The hall went quiet. A warning from a soft species? Many of you do not know human history, Chen continued. You see us as traitors, artists, diplomats. You think this is what we are. He shook his head slowly. You are wrong. He pressed a button. Images appeared on the great screens around the hall. Images of Earth, but not the green and blue world that everyone knew. These images showed something different. Cities in flames, mushroom clouds rising over continents, billions of bodies. 250 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself, Chen said. We call it the resource wars. We killed 3 billion of our own people. We burned our own world. We came within days of complete extinction. The alien representatives stared at the images. Some of them had seen war. None of them had seen anything like this. Humans had done this to themselves? When the wars ended, we made a choice, Chen continued. We sealed away our weapons. We buried our war doctrine. We swore that we would never again become what we had been. We chose to be peaceful. We chose to be kind. His voice hardened. But we did not forget. We did not destroy what we had built. We simply waited. He looked around the hall at the 1,000 alien faces. The Vorthax have woken us up. More images appeared. The hidden fleet behind Jupiter. The weapons in the mountains. The factories in the asteroids. The alien representatives gasped. This was impossible. The humans were a soft species. They had no military. They had no power. We buried our swords because we feared what we might become, Chen said. The Vorthax have dug them up. He bowed his head slightly. May your gods forgive them, because we will not. He turned and walked out of the hall. The Concord representatives sat in stunned silence. They did not know what to say. They did not know what to think. On Earth, the preparations continued. In military bases that had been empty for 2 centuries, old soldiers reported for duty, men and women in their 60s and 70s. They had been farmers, teachers, doctors, artists. Now they put on uniforms that still fit. They picked up weapons that felt familiar in their hands. Their bodies remembered what their minds had tried to forget. General Marcus Stone was 71 years old. He had been a history professor for the last 40 years. He had written books about peace. He had taught his students that war was the failure of civilization. Now he stood on the bridge of the battleship Prometheus, looking out at the fleet assembling around him. 10,000 ships, weapons that could end worlds, soldiers who had hoped they would never fight again. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving transmissions from across the fleet. The crews are ready. Stone nodded slowly. He had hoped this day would never come. He had prayed for it, but hope and prayer were not enough. The Vorthax had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Send a message to all ships, Stone said. His voice was quiet, tired. Remind them what we fight for. Remind them what we lost. And remind them what we are capable of. He paused. We do not want this war, but we will finish it. The fleet began to move. 10,000 ships emerged from behind Jupiter, their weapons hot, their crews ready. They set course for Vorthax space. In his war room on the Vorthax homeworld, High Commander Vraxis received intelligence reports about the human fleet. His analysts told him it was impossible. The humans had no navy. The humans were weak, but the images did not lie. 10,000 ships, weapons of unknown design, a fleet that should not exist. Vraxis felt something strange, something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt fear, but he pushed it away. The Vorthax were warriors. They had conquered 60 worlds. They would not be frightened by a soft species with hidden ships. He gave the order to prepare for battle. He did not understand what was coming. He did not understand what humans became when they were pushed too far. He did not understand that the soft species he had attacked were not soft at all. They had simply chosen to be gentle. And now that choice was over. The Battle of Kepler's Reach would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. It was the moment when everything changed. It was the moment when the galaxy learned to fear humans. The Vorthax had assembled their response fleet at a place called Kepler's Reach, a system with 3 gas giants at the edge of their territory. 3,000 warships, the largest Vorthax battle group ever formed. High Commander Vraxis himself led the fleet from his flagship, the Conqueror. He had studied the human ships. They were strange. Their designs made no sense to Vorthax engineers. But numbers were numbers. 3,000 Vorthax warships against what his scouts reported as 1,000 human vessels. 3-to-1 odds. Easy victory. The humans arrived at dawn, by Earth time. General Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and looked at the enemy fleet on his tactical display. 3,000 ships, heavy armor, powerful weapons. The Vorthax had been conquering worlds for centuries. They knew how to fight, but they did not know how to fight humans. All ships, Stone said into his communicator, execute pattern Omega. The Vorthax expected the humans to form defensive lines. That was how civilized species fought. You protected your ships. You valued your soldiers. You tried to win with minimal losses. The humans did not form defensive lines. Instead, they charged. Every ship, full speed, directly into the heart of the Vorthax formation. Vraxis stared at his tactical display in confusion. This was suicide. This was madness. No species threw away their ships like this. No species valued victory over survival. They are insane, his tactical officer said. They will all die. But the humans did not all die. Their ships were fast. Faster than anything the Vorthax had seen. They twisted and turned through the formation, too quick to target. And their weapons were not like anything in the Vorthax database. The first human ship reached the Vorthax heavy cruiser Devastation. Instead of firing from a safe distance, it flew directly at the cruiser's bridge. At the last moment, it launched a single projectile and pulled away. The projectile was small. It punched through the cruiser's armor like it was paper. Then it exploded. The Devastation broke in half. The explosion spread to nearby ships. In 30 seconds, 12 Vorthax warships were gone, and the humans were just getting started. Stone watched the battle from his command chair. His tactical officers called out targets. His weapons crews fired with perfect accuracy. But it was not just the weapons that were winning this battle. It was the way the humans fought. They fought without fear. When a Vorthax ship destroyed a human vessel, the humans did not retreat. They did not mourn. They simply sent 2 more ships to attack that enemy. When a human captain found herself surrounded by enemies, she did not surrender. She overloaded her reactor and took 6 Vorthax ships with her. The Vorthax had never seen anything like this. They fought wars for conquest, for resources, for glory. They expected their enemies to fight the same way. They expected their enemies to value survival. Humans did not value survival, not when their families had been murdered, not when their children had been killed. They valued only one thing, victory. 2 hours into the battle, Vraxis ordered his fleet to reform. They were losing ships too fast. The humans were everywhere. They attacked from every direction. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. "What are they?" his tactical officer asked. His voice was shaking. "What kind of species does this?" Vraxis did not answer. He was watching a single human destroyer charge toward his flagship. The destroyer was badly damaged. Its engines were failing. Its weapons were nearly empty. It should have retreated. Any sane captain would have retreated. Instead, it accelerated, directly at the Conqueror's bridge. "Evasive action!" Vraxis screamed. "All weapons on that ship!" The Vorthax guns tore into the human destroyer. Its hull broke apart. Its reactor went critical. But the captain had one last trick. In the final moment before her ship died, She launched her remaining missiles. They hit the Conqueror's engines. The flagship lurched. Warning lights flashed across every console. Vraxis felt the ship shudder beneath his feet. They were not destroyed, but they were crippled, and the humans kept coming. Stone received the report that the enemy flagship was damaged. He nodded and spoke into his communicator. All ships, focus on the Conqueror. End this. 300 human ships turned toward the Vorthax flagship. They came from every direction. They did not stop. They did not slow down. Vraxis watched them coming. He thought about his warriors, the finest soldiers in the Dominion, conquerors of 60 worlds. They were dying by the thousands. They were being swept away by a species they had dismissed as weak. High Commander, his communications officer said, we are receiving transmissions from the human fleet. Put it through. General Stone's face appeared on the screen. He was old, his hair was white, his eyes were tired, but his voice was steady. High Commander Vraxis, Stone said, your fleet is broken. Your flagship is crippled. Your warriors are dying. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Vraxis stared at the human. Mercy? The Vorthax did not accept mercy. The Vorthax were warriors. We do not surrender, Vraxis said. We fight to the death. Stone nodded slowly. He did not seem surprised. Then you will die. The transmission ended. 4 hours after the battle began, it was over. Of the 3,000 Vorthax warships, less than 400 survived. They fled into hyperspace, their formation shattered, their pride broken. The humans had lost ships too. Nearly 300 vessels were destroyed. Thousands of human soldiers were dead, but they had won. They had crushed the greatest Vorthax fleet ever assembled. Stone stood on his bridge and looked at the debris field. Broken ships floated in the darkness, Vorthax and human alike. He felt no joy. He felt only a deep, terrible sadness. This was what humanity could do. This was what they had buried for 200 years. This was the monster they had tried to forget. Sir, his communications officer said, the Galactic Concord is requesting a statement. Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, knowing his words would be transmitted across the galaxy. This is General Marcus Stone of the Earth Defense Force. Today, we destroyed the Vorthax battle fleet at Kepler's Reach. We did not want this war. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. He paused. To the Vorthax Dominion, you killed our children. You burned our colonies. You thought we were weak. Now you know the truth. We are not a soft species. We chose to be peaceful. We chose to be kind. But when you threaten our existence, we become something else. His voice hardened. We do not fight to conquer. We fight to annihilate. Every world you hold, we will burn. Every ship you fly, we will hunt. This is not war. This is extinction. Unless you surrender unconditionally, we will not stop until there is nothing left of your dominion but ash and memory. He ended the transmission. Across the galaxy, 1,000 species watched the footage from Kepler's Reach. They saw the human ships charging without fear. They saw the suicidal attacks. They saw the complete destruction of the Vorthax fleet. And they understood finally what humans really were. They were not a soft species. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had simply chosen, for 200 years, to pretend otherwise. That choice was over. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler's Reach. In that time, humanity had swept through the Vorthax dominion like a fire through dry grass. Colony after colony fell. Fleet after fleet was destroyed. The Vorthax, who had conquered 60 worlds over centuries, lost everything in half a year. Now Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Resolution, and looked down at the Vorthax homeworld. It was a beautiful planet. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the sky. From orbit, it looked peaceful, innocent. You could not see the cities below. You could not see the billions of Vorthax living their lives, working, raising families, hoping that the war would not reach them. The war had reached them. 200 human warships orbited the planet. In their weapons bays sat devices called Helios bombs. They were humanity's most terrible creation. A single Helios bomb could ignite a planet's atmosphere. The air itself would catch fire. Everything on the surface would burn. Every city, every forest, every living thing. The Vorthax homeworld held 4 billion people. Tanaka had the power to kill them all. In the war room below the bridge, the senior officers gathered around the tactical display. General Stone was there, his face lined with exhaustion. Admiral Chen had come from Earth. President Santos attended via hologram. The leaders of humanity had gathered to make the most important decision in their history. The Vorthax Emperor has requested peace talks, Chen said. He offers unconditional surrender. He will disband their military. He will pay any reparations we demand. He begs for mercy. He begged for nothing when he murdered our children, General Stone said. His voice was cold. He showed no mercy to New Helsinki. He showed no mercy to Luna. That is true, Chen said, but his people did not make that choice. The soldiers who attacked us are dead. The commanders who ordered the attacks are dead. The billions on that planet below us, they are farmers, teachers, children. They did not kill anyone. Stone was silent. Tanaka watched him struggle with his anger. She understood it. She felt it too. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the images from New Helsinki, the burning school, the small bodies in the rubble. Her own niece had died there, 8 years old. She had wanted to be a pilot. Part of Tanaka wanted to give the order. Part of her wanted to watch the Vorthax world burn. It would be justice. It would be revenge. It would be exactly what the Vorthax deserved. But another part of her remembered something her grandmother had said long ago. Revenge is a poison that looks like medicine. It promises to make the pain stop. But it only creates more pain. We have a choice, and President Santos said. Her voice was quiet. We can destroy them. We have the power. We have the justification. No one in the galaxy would blame us. She paused. Or we can show mercy. We can prove that we are better than what they did to us. They would have done the same to Earth, Stone said. If they had won, they would have burned our world without hesitation. Yes, Santos agreed. They would have. But we are not them. That is the whole point. The argument continued for hours. Some demanded destruction. The Vorthax had started this war. The Vorthax had killed innocent humans. The Vorthax deserved extinction. Others argued for mercy. Genocide would make humanity no better than their enemies. Genocide would stain them forever. Through it all, Tanaka was silent. She listened. She thought. She remembered. Finally, she spoke. There is a young woman on this ship, Tanaka said. Her name is Elena Vasquez. She was born on New Helsinki. Her parents were killed in the attack. Her little brother was killed in the attack. Her grandparents, her friends, everyone she ever loved died that day. The room went quiet. When we reach the moment of decision, I want her to press the button. If we are going to destroy a world, let it be done by someone who has the right to want it destroyed. Let it be done by someone who lost everything. The officers looked at each other. It seemed fair. It seemed right. Bring her to the bridge, Tanaka said. Elena Vasquez was 23 years old. She had dark hair and dark eyes. Her face was calm. She had cried all her tears in the months after the attack. She had none left. She stood before the weapons console on the bridge. The button was in front of her, a simple button. One press, and 4 billion Vorthax would die. One press, and she would have her revenge. Tanaka stood beside her. You know what that button does? Yes, Admiral. You know what will happen if you press it. Yes, Admiral. Tanaka was quiet for a moment. Do you want to press it? Elena looked at the planet below. She thought about her mother, who had made the best breakfast pancakes in the colony. She thought about her father, who had taught her to play guitar. She thought about her little brother, who had been afraid of the dark and always wanted to sleep in her room. They were gone, all of them, because of the people on that planet. She reached out her hand. Her finger touched the button, and then she stopped. I want to, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. I want to so much. Every night I dream about it. Every day I think about it. They took everything from me. Everything. Tears were falling down her face now. She had thought she had no tears left. She was wrong. But if I press this button, I become them. If I kill their children, I am no different from the monsters who killed my brother. She pulled her hand back. My mother used to say that hate is a fire that burns the person who holds it. I have been burning for 6 months. I do not want to burn anymore. She stepped back from the console. I will not do it, she said. I cannot forgive them. I will never forgive them. But I will not become them. Tanaka looked at the young woman. She saw the pain in her eyes. She saw the courage it took to step back from that button. She had never been more proud of a human being in her entire life. She turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Vorthax Emperor. The Emperor's face appeared on the screen. He was old. His shell was cracked in places. His eyes were wide with fear. He had been waiting for the fire. He had been waiting for death. Emperor, Tanaka said, you will live. The Emperor stared at her. He did not understand. You will not destroy us? No, but not because you deserve mercy. You do not. What you did to us can never be forgiven. Her voice was hard as steel. You will live so that you can tell others what happens when you wake the humans. You will live so that every species in the galaxy knows the price of attacking us. You will live as a warning. She leaned forward. Your military will be disbanded. Your weapons will be destroyed. You will pay reparations for the next 100 years. And every year on the anniversary of New Helsinki, your entire civilization will observe a day of mourning. You will remember what you did. You will teach your children what you did. You will never forget. The Emperor nodded desperately. Yes, yes, we agree. We agree to everything. One more thing, Tanaka said. This is your only chance. If any Vorthax ever attacks a human again, for any reason, we will return, and we will not show mercy a second time. She ended the transmission. On the bridge, the crew was silent. Some of them had wanted to press the button. Some of them had wanted revenge. But looking at Elena Vasquez standing there with tears on her face, they understood. This was harder than revenge. This took more courage than destruction. This was what it meant to be human. The Vorthax War ended not with fire, but with silence. The Dominion was dismantled. Their fleet was reduced to a small defense force. Their empire became a protectorate under human supervision. The warriors who had terrorized 60 worlds now had no weapons, no power, and no pride. But they were alive. 4 billion Vorthax lived because a young woman named Elena Vasquez had found the strength to step back from a button. 1 month after the war's end, Ambassador Chen returned to the Galactic Concord. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime was packed. Representatives from every species in known space had come to hear what humanity would say. They had watched the war with horror. They had seen what humans could do. Now they wanted to know what came next. Chen walked to the podium. He carried a single document in his hands. Members of the Galactic Concord, he began, humanity comes before you today not as conquerors, not as destroyers. We come as neighbors who want nothing more than to live in peace. He held up the document. This is the Humanity Doctrine. It will be transmitted to every world, every station, every ship in the galaxy. It explains who we are, what we want, and what will happen to anyone who threatens us. He began to read. Humanity seeks only peace. We are traders. We are artists. We are builders and healers and dreamers. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We ask only to live among you as friends and partners. His voice hardened. But we must be clear about what we are. 250 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves. We looked into the darkness of our own souls, and we saw what we were capable of. We buried that darkness. We chose to be gentle. We chose to be kind. He looked around the hall. The Vorthax made us dig up that darkness. They made us become, once again, the thing we feared most. We destroyed their military in 6 months. We stood over their homeworld with the power to burn it to ash, and we chose mercy. He paused. We will always choose mercy first, but let there be no misunderstanding. If any species attacks human civilians, the response will not be proportional. It will be absolute. We do not fight to win. We fight to end. We do not show our enemies what defeat looks like. We show them what extinction looks like. The hall was silent. The alien representatives stared at the small human at the podium. They remembered the footage from Kepler's Reach. The human ships charging without fear, the suicidal attacks, the complete annihilation of the Vorthax fleet. This is Earth's final warning, Chen said. Attack once more, and total annihilation awaits. Not as a threat, but as a promise. Not from hatred, but from the cold mathematics of deterrence. We have looked into the abyss of what we can become. Pray you never force us to look again. He set down the document. We would rather be your friends. We would rather build hospitals on your worlds and write music that makes your children smile. We would rather be remembered as the species that brought peace to the galaxy. His voice softened. But if you force us to choose between our children and yours, we will choose ours. Every time. Without hesitation, without mercy. That is what we are. That is what the Vorthax learned. He stepped back from the podium. We hope you never have to learn the same lesson. The years passed, then the decades, then the centuries. The humanity doctrine became the most famous document in galactic history. Every species learned it. Every child was taught it. The warning was carved into monuments on 1,000 worlds, and humanity kept its promise. They went back to being traders, artists, diplomats. They built beautiful things. They helped struggling worlds. They made peace between ancient enemies. They were kind. They were gentle. But every species remembered what lived beneath that kindness. Every species knew that the gentle smiles hid teeth. The humans never let anyone forget. Every year, on the anniversary of New Helsinki, human ships throughout the galaxy held memorial services. They remembered their dead. They remembered their war. They showed the galaxy that they had not forgotten what they could do. No one attacked human civilians again. Ever. 100 years after the war, on a small planet at the edge of Vorthax space, a young alien girl sat with her grandmother. The girl was watching a human trading ship land at the nearby spaceport. The humans aboard were laughing, helping unload supplies for the local hospital. "Grandmother," the girl asked, "why does everyone say humans are dangerous? They seem so nice." Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment. She was old enough to remember the war. She remembered the fear. She remembered watching the human fleet orbit her world, knowing that death was a button press away. "They are nice," she said finally. "They are the kindest species in the galaxy. They will help you if you are hurt. They will feed you if you are hungry. They will build schools for your children and hospitals for your sick." She looked at the human ship, at the smiling faces, at the gentle hands unloading medical supplies. "But they are also the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and they will remain kind, little one, so long as we let them." The girl did not fully understand. She was too young, but she filed the words away in her memory. Someday she would understand. Someday she would teach her own children. The humans were kind. The humans were gentle. The humans wanted nothing but peace, and the galaxy had learned, at terrible cost, to never make them want anything else. On Earth, in the memorial garden built above the ruins of Geneva's old war room, Admiral Yuki Tanaka's statue stood among the flowers. She had died 30 years after the war, peacefully in her sleep. Her last words had been a message to humanity, carved now into the base of her statue. "We showed them what we could do. We showed them what we chose not to do. May we never have to make that choice again. May our children live in a galaxy where human kindness is the only thing anyone remembers." Below the statue, visitors left flowers and stones and small tokens of gratitude. Humans came to remember. Aliens came to understand. And high above, the stars shone down on a galaxy at peace. It was a fragile peace. It was a peace built on fear as much as love. But it was peace nonetheless. The guns were silent. The ships carried cargo instead of weapons. Children grew up without knowing war. That was enough. That had to be enough, because the alternative was fire. And humanity had seen enough fire to last forever. In the end, that was the true lesson of the human Vorthax War. Not that humans were strong, not that humans were dangerous, but that humans, despite everything they could do, wanted more than anything to never do it again. They wanted to be kind. They wanted to be gentle. They wanted to build instead of destroy. They just needed the galaxy to let them. And finally, after blood and fire and tears, the galaxy had learned to do exactly that. Peace. Not because humans were loved, but because they were understood. And understanding in the end was enough.